Hi, this is Liv Morgan, and you are listening to No One Knows, a deep dive podcast into the mysterious death of Joann Matouk Romain. Hey guys, it's been a while, but I'm here solo today. This week I have a few updates on some things that we're following, so let's dig in. First and foremost, I would like to talk about something that hit the news this week. So for those of you that saw on social media or news coverage, there was an individual with the last name Sani who was arrested and charged for embezzling $350,000 from Woods Wholesale Wine. So let's dig into that first. Many of you commented on the Instagram, sent us a news article. We saw it immediately, of course, but I love seeing that all of you are being aware and watching things that are going on around. So this actually wouldn't be the first time that I had come across the name Sani. During my research just a few months back, I came across a lawsuit. And this lawsuit was from Sani versus William Matouk. And the filing date for this was actually back in March. So while doing my research, I obviously reached out to Sani's lawyer on the case and I tried to contact Sani directly. As of today, October 31st, there has been no response to report on. Perhaps they don't want to speak on anything until the litigation is resolved. And since this is an open and ongoing case, I don't want to further incriminate Sani in any way, so we will wait and see if they reach out. I am unsure of what the lawsuit consisted of between him and William Matouk and where the embezzlement falls in on there. But I do find it very concerning that someone could embezzle $350,000 from a wine business without a business noticing. And what something that really caught my eye was the article claims that it was directly from online sales. So take what you will with that information, but I think this store deserves some sort of attention, and I really hope that officials begin to look into and see how some reason everything keeps leading back to the Matouk. Okay, let's fast forward to this Tuesday. For those of you who follow us on Instagram, you were shocked to see that we were actually back in court on Tuesday. I attended a hearing at the Macomb County Circuit Court under Judge Rachel Ranchello, and it was in the case of Matouk versus Matouk. I want to start off by saying that Judge Ranchello was incredible. She carries herself in a very classy and straightforward way with a lot of grace. It really was a breath of fresh air, especially during all the circus surrounding Joann's case and the billboard and, all the things that are kind of moving at the same pace while we're working on this podcast. It was really refreshing to have a judge look at the facts and speak on those facts. And I think that it brought a little bit of faith back into me for people looking at these type of cases. But the case was in regards to a few months back, Tim Matouk, remember Joann's cousin who works for the Wayne County Prosecutor's office, actually had John Matouk, Joann's youngest brother, served with a PPO. To be honest, I wasn't totally shocked, but at the same time I have shared many times throughout our podcast and social media that the text messages that have been exchanged between the two men, it's disgusting. And eventually when the PPO was filed, an ex parte PPO was filed on June 19th, 2024. And for those of you that are not aware of what an ex parte or how it works, let me explain this to you. So it says, quote, directly on the PPO, I request an ex parte order because immediate and irreparable injury, loss, or damage will occur between now and a hearing, or because notice itself will cause irreparable injury, loss, or danger before the court can be rendered. So, end quote. It basically means that before a hearing occurs, an emergency PPO can be put in place before the hearing occurs to protect victims that are in need of a PPO. So, the evidence that Tim Matouk included in the PPO was the following. So, this is directly from the PPO filed by Tim Matouk. It says, quote, one incident of stalking or other threatening behavior by John Matouk occurred on or about June 15th, 2024 at the following location. I'm going to leave that out because it's Tim Matouk's address. It says, at that time, John Matouk said or did the following. Joann Matouk flew a banner attached to an airplane over my house and around the city. The banner read, "Tim and Bill Matouk are murderers, podcast no one knows." There is an observed pattern of these planes flying every Saturday afternoon in broad daylight that has been happening since the end of May of 2024. The planes usually fly for about 2 hours, circling the St. Clair Shores and Grosse Pointe communities. I know the respondent was responsible for the behavior because he blatantly admitted to his behavior. He sent me a text message saying that he had paid $5,000 to complete this act. As a result of this incident, I felt publicly humiliated and embarrassed. I felt fear for not only myself, but for my family because of how this could be affecting them as well. I feel as though I'm being stalked every weekend as this keeps happening, and it is quickly becoming a safety issue for me and my loved ones. There are witnesses to the incident. The police were called, and they did the following. The police took a report and are currently looking into possible criminal charges against John. And then it says B, another incident of stalking or other. And it says threatening behavior by Joann Matouk occurred on or about May 18th, 2024 through June 1st, 2024 at the filing location. And it has Tim's address listed, which we're not going to mention. At that time, Joann Matouk said or did the following. Joann Matouk was continually harassing me by sending me text messages telling me that I'm a murderer, a crooked cop, public corrupter, etc. These messages were consistent and it led me to have to block his number. As a result of this incident, I felt like I have been slandered and judged in the public and I feel defamed. There are witnesses to the incidents. The police were called and did the following. The police took a report. And then it says C. I would like the court to know I believe that Joann Matouk is mentally unstable human being. I feel afraid for the future because if he can go to these lengths to slander my name, what else is he capable of? End quote. In the police reports, it states that Timothy is in contact with his attorney for defamation. In addition, there's a lot of redacted information, but there are text chains between Bill Matouk, Joann Matouk, and Prosecutor. And Prosecutor is Bill Matouk's girlfriend. It looks like they were possibly trying to figure out where the plane that was flying these banners originated from. So it looks like they were trying to gather further information on who paid for these planes, where they were coming from, and all of that information. An ex parte was denied and a hearing was scheduled. That was the hearing that had happened previously on August 8th, 2024. In this hearing, Tim Matouk showed up without his counsel, while Joann Matouk showed up with counsel, and at that time, watching was Bill Sr., Tim Matouk, Joann Matouk, John's lawyer, myself, Liv Morgan, and Kelly Romain were present in the courtroom. After being informed of some of the accusations against Joann Matouk making reference to No One Knows podcast, I decided it would probably be best so I could report on it. When I attended the hearing, it was rescheduled because Tim Matouk spotted me in the courtroom and, quote, said, "Your Honor, I would like to get counsel because the girl who runs a podcast on me, Liv Morgan, is here," end quote. He then rambled something about wanting to put me on the stand. I don't remember exactly, but it was along those lines. So the date was rescheduled multiple times with the hearing date this past Tuesday, October 29th. No paperwork has been served on me as of today, October 31st, 2024. Regarding the PPO, the hearing was strictly between Tim and Joann Matouk. It was ultimately agreed by the judge that the text messages sent between the individuals constituted banter between them. For that reason, the text messages were not admissible, and due to the fact that they went back and forth freely, they are considered banter. The judge basically told them they need to act like grown men, stop communicating with each other, and stop having anything to do with each other, and this should all be resolved. The PPO was denied, and they will have a follow-up hearing in 6 months to see if they've respected the judge's wishes and concerns, and to confirm that they have stopped all communications. As a reminder, John has not physically been near Tim Matouk, and Tim Matouk has not physically been near John. As far as the banter between the two was concerned, it was simply a threat that was exchanged on both sides in text messages. But I want to talk about a few of the examples of the specific messages that were brought up and some letters that were sent to Maria Miller. I want to refresh your memory. Maria Miller is the assistant prosecuting attorney for the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office. She reports directly to Kim Worthy. And remember, Tim Matouk works under Kim Worthy. While I did not read the letter, nor know I know what's inside of it, John did inform his lawyer that they had contacted the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office on many occasions, as well as the FBI and all local authorities, regarding the suspicious death of his sister Joann, as well as Tim Matouk's affiliation with law enforcement. However, I have to agree, it seems as if no law enforcement agency wants to deal with Joann's case. Despite all evidence pointing towards foul play and away from the suicide narrative, no one has actively investigated this other than a suicide. And even then, the suicide was decided within the first 5 minutes of her considered, and I'm doing air quotes, missing. I've personally spoken with many departments regarding Joann's case. I've sent letters, our listeners have sent letters, we've sent messages, we've made phone calls, but I'll say about 99% of the time we don't even get a response back. And I don't understand how that can be. You may remember my conversation that I had with Maria Miller. It was a few episodes back, and it was in regards to a press release that they did when they discovered Joann's body had been found. But I tried to contact her and talk with her about what their process of investigating is. And if you recall, she told me it's not their job to investigate. Nevertheless, I can't help but notice that Tim Matouk holds a position of authority in the law enforcement field. It cannot go unnoticed. Why are the things that he has said, especially regarding the death of one of his family members, Joann Matouk Romain, thrown around so lightly? I don't understand how you can tell someone you wish they died but claim you have no malice towards them. In regards to Joann and his law enforcement position, I'd like to talk about a few of his messages and why I think they're important. Quote, text message from Tim Matouk to John Matouk. Hey, sociopath, it would be better if you dove into Lake St. Clair too. It would be karma. Suicide runs in your family, the only family you had, and you ripped her off. End quote. The next one says, quote, you're surrounded by law enforcement. Every move you make is monitored. End quote. The next one says, quote, go see the feds, asshole, and hurry up because I'm getting ready to retire from my stellar career. End quote. The next one says, quote, you should commit suicide like Joann did after you stole all her money. End quote. The next one says, quote, let's not forget you lost a house. Billy outsmarted you again. I'm sure he sneezed at all the money you made on Sunningdale too. End quote. The next one says, quote, we never were suspects. Only you wanted us to. And really, who the fuck are you? You're a nobody. End quote. The next one says, quote, you and the Romains can all go pound sand. End quote. Honestly, it's super gross. And I think that the text messages speak volumes when someone holds a position of power, speaks so open and freely. Tim spoke with such confidence in his words and the hate that he spewed. It's almost like he must be certain that these actions won't affect his place of employment. And always the million-dollar question is, why is this person who works for the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office and is paid for by the people able to make threats involving illegal claims? Kim Worthy, Maria Miller, Dana Nessel, Governor Whitmore. Is anybody out there listening? I've reached out to all of you. What's going on? Why aren't you listening? There's going to be people who say, oh my God, look at the world that you've portrayed Tim in. But the thing that you're all forgetting is there's a paper trail supporting everything that I have said. Everything that I've mentioned about him, I can give you a document that states that it happened. Or there's an accusation about it. For instance, his ex-wife. Was she really threatened by him? Let's go back. During her deposition, she was asked if he had ever threatened her or threatened to kill her. The answer to both those questions was yes. He threatened to kill her and that he could make her disappear. And the worst part of it all is that she believed him when he said that he would kill her. Are you hearing what I'm saying? The person who was married to Tim Matouk, the mother of his 2 oldest children, they had known each other from the time they were 16 up until their 40s when they got divorced, threatened to kill and make her disappear. I'll let you be the judge on that one. But on to the next. Did he really molest someone? In fact, there are allegations that he molested an individual for 10 plus years, and there is also a paper trail to support it. I've spoken with this individual many, many, many times, in addition to which they have also told me stories that reflect his character fully. I'm not comfortable sharing those stories until the survivor is willing to come forward publicly. It's not my story to tell. But Tim turned around and stared at me in court this past Tuesday, making noises and making eye contact. The idea of him trying to intimidate, or me being intimidated by someone like him, doesn't appeal to me. There is someone who has hurt so many people and is not concerned with the consequences. No One Knows podcast is just putting the story in one place. It's just a lot of information that's been left out through the years by others who've reported on this. People simply don't have weeks, months, or years to report on one story. Everybody's done what they can to report Joann's story and all the things that go into it. But I think people forget is this is still an ongoing story. There's still active corruption happening inside of Grosse Pointe Woods, Grosse Pointe Farms, the Wayne County. I can't help but notice that Tim's blatant abuse of power seems to follow a pattern. The records provided by the Romain children during their lawsuit reveals a handful of complaints brought forward by members of the public during his time as an officer. How many people is it going to take to show somebody that something's not right? The hardest part for some is that many people think, or they even find it hard to comprehend, that someone with a badge could be harmful or negative. We need to keep in mind that a badge is just that. It's just a badge. And at the end of the day, they are still humans. My biggest worry with all of this is we have a handful of dead individuals. All these people died under suspicious circumstances. You're probably asking me, okay, but what else? What else is there? Give us more. I don't create podcasts for false narratives. This is my first podcast. But you have to remind yourself, ask yourself questions. Why haven't I, Liv Morgan, been sued for anything that I've said? Because there's a paper trail. But why haven't I been sued for slander or a cease and desist order? Because there's a paper trail. In an effort to sway you a certain way, they're going to continue to make fake Instagram profiles and accounts. They're going to attack my weight because I'm fat. I'm not here to sway you in any way. I'm not here to defend myself. I'm here to present to you the facts of Joann's case and how this has played out over the last almost 15 years. Based on the evidence that I'm providing to you, you can make your own judgments. And nevertheless, many of you living in that community are afraid. And this could actually have happened in your neighborhood. What if a mother of 3 was murdered and her murder was covered up? What was it done for? What was the purpose? What was the reason that it was being protected and covered up? There's so many things that I've laid out for you. Sexual assault, murders, suicides, drugs, sex trafficking. Honestly, the season is so far from over. We're going to keep talking. We're going to keep talking about this community and how people are using public offices for personal vendettas and for their own gain. And maybe during the process of looking into Joann's case and hoping to solve her case, we're going to uncover all the webs of Grosse Pointe Woods and Grosse Pointe Farms. But until then, I want to leave you with this.
And we'd be like, Joann, we're going to the car to get a part. And like, that's how careful she was being. So it really rung true with me when all this stuff happened. I knew she was scared because it was so odd that she was like so incredibly diligent about locking the door.